Well, the shooting death of Charlie Kirk has stunned the nation, and now new questions about political violence and security have come up. Well, the president of Defense Systems, a security consulting firm, Brink Fidler, is here. He has over 2 decades of law enforcement experience. Brink, I'm so sorry we are talking under these circumstances. Thanks for being here.
Me too. Yeah. Tragedy brings out a lot about what we do, unfortunately.
I think a lot of people are wondering how this could happen at a well-policed event at Utah Valley University.
Certainly. Of course, in this case, we're talking a long range shot, right? Probably with a high powered rifle based on just a little bit of video that I've seen. So to secure every single building around that event takes a huge law enforcement presence and manpower. And, those aren't the threats that typically they're looking for at these events, right? They're looking for more of the agitators and the protesters and things like that. And, an assassin with a high powered long range rifle takes things to a whole new level as far as preparation goes.
Yeah. Well, since the assassination attempt on President Trump, you'd think political rallies and events, especially those within the conservative movement, would be hyper vigilant and more on guard and ready for these kinds of attacks.
Certainly, definitely more on guard. But again, to see someone, especially a young conservative, up and comer like Charlie Kirk, to be assassinated, that's something that was really on anybody's radar, just because we hadn't seen it taken to that level. Obviously, with President Trump, we did, but outside of that, we hadn't really seen it taken to that level. Again, I don't know what the security footprint was here. I have no idea what the pre-planning was for the event. But obviously, there's a lot of buildings around that courtyard where the things were taking place, and so that's just a lot of square footage to shut down. And you got to think that an operating university may or may not even allow you to come in as the security detail for him and shut down those buildings if they're still an operating university as well. So obviously, I think that'll change in future events based on what happened today. But I think prior to today, I don't know that there were enough red flags out there about this kind of attack at an event like this.
That's certainly stirring up the conversation again. The last video Charlie Kirk posted on Instagram just hours ago, he was honoring the victim killed on the light rail bus by a dangerous career criminal in North Carolina who a judge had just allowed out. He ended that video by saying, "Let's say her name." And now here we are hours later. He is sadly joining the devastating statistics. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think there's a serious conversation about rhetoric and political violence in this country. There was a time we could just agree to disagree, and now obviously we're having to kill our opponents in the political spectrum, which is just insane to me that this country has gone there. But it will certainly stir a whole new level of security concerns and protocols and procedures, just like 9/11 did. If you remember what it was like to fly before 9/11, and that was a serious game changer and just our way of life. And I think that this has the potential to do the same thing. At a presidential rally, or a president's always been protected to the level that they are. Political commentators and things like that have never really been looked at this having the same threat level before today. But after today, I think that's going to change drastically. And unfortunately for this country, that just means that the level of security and awareness is going to be even higher. And it's the price we pay for freedom as well, right?
All right. A lot more to come on this conversation that we will certainly be continuing. Brink Fidler, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.